Hello!
Hi!
Happy Thanksgiving week.
We're in a new location that's both very dreary and rainy, but not so dreary and rainy that tropical plants do not abound.
It's the rainforest down here.
It's the rainforest.
It really
That's what
is.
we're doing. Happy short holiday week
Yay!
to everybody. I woke up on Monday really excited to work really, really, really hard for 3 days.
And then eat a lot of pie.
And then eat so much pie. What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Well, I'm hosting, we actually call it Graciasgiving, and it's all Mexican food.
Oh my gosh! I love that. We actually eat tamales for Christmas dinner.
It feels very festive to me.
Yeah.
It's very,
I'm very big on that. In my family growing up, on Christmas Eve, we always ordered Chinese takeout and then like put blankets down on the living room floor and watched The Grinch. And I don't know how, it actually started because my mom was cooking like a traditional Thanksgiving meal one year. And it was just like one of those times where everything went to crap.
I was over it.
And we were just like, screw it, let's just go get Chinese food. And then it ended up being like one of my favorite traditions.
Fun. Yeah.
Yes, love it. Well, that's fun. We're hosting as well.
Hi.
And
Harmony.
Hi, Harmony. Hi, Juliana.
So fun.
Okay, so today we are chatting timely about navigating the holidays as an ethical consumer.
Yeah.
And by ethical consumer, let's go ahead and just
define our terms.
Because I think ethical consumer might mean something different to everybody. And I would say probably like every label ever, there's a pretty wide spectrum on what ethical consumer means. So on one side of the spectrum, I think you have people that probably define ethical consumer as try not to do any harm and like don't support things that you know are knowingly like harming the world, all the way to people on the other side of the spectrum that really define it as in every purchase that I make, I'm thinking about a 4-point like value chain, quadruple bottom line and how I'm evaluating. And then I would say I sit somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I think that another term that gets thrown around a lot is conscious consumer. And I actually love that term because to me, saying that you're conscious about something, it's like you're aware. It doesn't mean you're perfect.
Love that.
But when you're conscious and you're aware, it does inform what you decide. And it doesn't mean you're perfect, but it means that you're doing your best to be thoughtful in your purchasing decisions.
Yeah, and I would say if there's any time for us to be maybe thoughtful or curious over critical, it's probably the holiday season. And we're going to get into why that's kind of particularly important on the gift receiving side of things. But also, I think it's such an important conversation because the next month, are huge opportunities to be a conscious consumer and to make a really big impact with your purchasing dollars. The vast majority of you most likely already have dollars that have been allocated for shopping, so it's a really special time of the year where it's not like consume more than you would have anyway, but literally if you could just shift how you're thinking about what you're already budgeting for, what you've already mentally allocated, it can be a really important and life-giving time.
And I think it's a time of year where you have a luxury of being a little choosier about what you buy, because my everyday purchases, like my groceries, and there's so many things that I consume that I don't have the luxury of waiting and making a really thought out decision about where my apples came from. I hope to someday. I want to get there. But when you're giving a gift, you actually have no pressure of I need this to survive and I can't wait and figure out where it came from. Buying a gift is the most free time to explore how can I make an impact? And
I also find that for me, one of the hardest things that keeps me from being as conscious of a consumer as I want to be is I feel like I could talk until I'm blue in the face about why I intellectually know this doesn't make sense and we're actually going to get into this. But this idea of am I getting the best possible deal?
Right.
And when I give gifts, I'm really released from that because the point of giving a great gift isn't that you got the best deal on it. And so I'm okay to say, okay, maybe you're going to get a little less.
Right.
And by less, I mean quantity of gifts or whatever it is. And instead, I would so much rather spend the same amount of money, get you something a little smaller, but have it be something that's really special and meaningful. So I find that for people that you might be around, or if this is you and you haven't kind of totally made the switch into being a conscious consumer, the holidays are an amazing time to start practicing that. And then once you start doing it for other people, I think it starts to normalize. Where it's like, oh, I bought this thing, and it wasn't the best possible deal for the cheapest amount of money. But it's such a beautiful thing, and it gave them so much joy. And then it starts to normalize for yourself of like, maybe I would like the joy that comes from not just having the cheapest thing that's the best deal.
Yeah. I come from like, it's actually really embarrassing how much I come from a past of like associating my generosity with the quantity of items I could give people. So not even the value. I was the queen of Black Friday, you guys. I was, and we're going to get into Black Friday. Doesn't mean I'm not Black Friday shopping this year. But I was like the Black Friday shopper who would buy, I hope my sister's not watching this, I bought her like a bunch of clothes because I knew I would look super generous. And actually, I got in line at Fred Meyer really early and got all of those clothes for like $5. So my spirit of generosity was not actually exercised in that gift. I actually spent like hardly any money on her, but I was like, look at all these clothes I got you. And so I think that for me, there's been a huge mindset shift similar to yours of finding the joy more in like the well-made, beautiful story behind the item than just giving like a ton of stuff that someone doesn't actually need.
And I've been on the receiving end of having people give me things out of that spirit of, I was intentional about this and I thought about it. And I, for one, feel so, I can think of the gifts that people have given me that kind of aligned with my beliefs or had a cool story behind them. And I just felt so much more loved than had they given me 10 times as much stuff that just felt like, oh, I'm like filling it up. So let's, while we are here, let's talk about Black Friday.
So Black Friday.
So here's a question.
3 days.
Can we, as conscious consumers, engage in Black Friday? Would love for those of you who are watching to give us your gut reactions about whether or not you engage in Black Friday as a conscious consumer. And then Ellie and I will kind of tell you
what our plans are.
So what are your thoughts? Do you feel conflicted about Black Friday?
I don't.
She doesn't.
Contrary to many people who have similar thoughts about how we consume, I actually am all for Black Friday. And I think that that has shifted over the years because I went from an extreme of like Black Friday means or equates to fast fashion, wasteful spending, consuming more than I need. That's what it used to mean to me. And so I was like, okay.
So it was like an ideological thing that you were like
it was
participating
like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
For me, especially this
So you went from, I love Black Friday, I'm going to go to Fred Meyer and buy all the things for $5
to
all the way over to,
I hate it,
I'm not going to participate at all. Okay, and where are you today?
And part of that, too, honestly, was like an identity thing of like, well, if I'm an ethical consumer or a conscious consumer or a minimalist, I can't shop on Black Friday.
Yeah.
Now, I have told people, like, go shop on Black Friday for a couple of reasons. One is, it's called Black Friday for a reason, not because it is dark and terrible, but because that's when brands get out of the red, per se.
Did you guys know that? And do you know what getting out of the red means, if you didn't know that? So, in the retail industry, it is common for retailers, which is why retail is incredibly difficult. It's common for retailers to run in the red, mean every single month they're losing money. In the red, in accounting, if something is below zero, it turns red. So to run in the red for 10 months out of the year, and then in November basically in Q4 to see profit for the very first time. So it's like an incredibly important time in the life of kind of the retail calendar, and that's actually where the phrase Black Friday came from. So
fun
fun fact.
And I think that it's really powerful as a consumer to say, like, what brands do I want to push over that line? Get them into the black per se, get them to be profitable this year. And so I say, yes, go buy all the gifts today. Go buy them from brands that you really believe in and want to support. The other reason is because we get it. Ethical shopping, conscious consumerism, it's more expensive. It is. And for a lot of people, it can be a lot of sticker shock when you go onto a website. So Black Friday, when brands, and not every brand does it, but when brands have the opportunity to give you a discount they normally can't, it's a great time, I think, to invest in ethically made items that maybe you were like unsure about trying. and it can be a great entry into like, okay,
Ding, ding, ding. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that.
okay, that was my
point.
really long answer for
No,
what
it
I
was
think
great.
about.
I think, and you covered a lot of different things. But I think one of my most compelling reasons is what you touched on at the end is kind of, I think Black Friday can be an incredible entryway
Yeah.
towards people getting over, like, the sticker shock isn't as much because you're getting a 20% discount or something, especially because smaller brands and ethical brands and more curated brands often don't do discounts a lot throughout the year. So you have your like massive, and the retail industry right now is a mess, you guys. I mean, we have gotten ourselves into a hot mess with, it started out with once a year discounts, moved to twice a year, quarterly, monthly, and it's just has become an absolute race to the bottom. And I will tell you guys that big retailers are dying and they're failing because they gave customers a taste of like rock bottom prices, and then customers started withholding
until that.
And that is what kills retail long term. It's not engaging in the sale. It's saying I'm only going to engage if I'm engaging in the sale. And I think for customers who haven't seen the benefit yet, who haven't seen like, oh, I could pay a little bit more, but it feels so meaningful and it's so fun to wear and to get dressed in the morning or to carry this product, and when someone asks me about them, I get to tell them this story. It's like there's so much that's wrapped up in that. That engaging on Black Friday gives people an entryway to do that. And I will say, you know, I never had the I didn't have the pendulum swing that you had, because I went from being in college kind of hating all things like fashion and consumerism, but the way that I translated that was like, by being against the system, I'm going to game the system. So if I was going to participate, it was like, I'm going to do it for as cheap as possible. And then immediately, like, graduated college, and then the next Christmas had a company and had to navigate, like, oh, how do we participate in this? And so I immediately went from, like, game the system, it's probably terrible, I'm not proud of how I thought about it, all the way to, this is a really important time. And so I want to tell you guys that, like, Seiko, for example, we plan all year.
Yeah.
And we're thinking about this time. We're thinking about the discounts we're able to give our customers. We're thinking about how we're promoting the sale. It's so much a part of our strategy that for our customers to say, unless they were to say, I'm not going to participate, instead I'm going to buy that product at full price. If that's your prerogative, like,
cheers
great.
to you.
I am not going to argue with that. But if your prerogative is more like, I'm not going to participate because it's not good or it's ideologically not, I will say, like, you are supporting small brands when you shop on Black Friday. We're never going to give you a sale that doesn't make sense for us, and it's not like, okay, we can afford this, we budgeted out, we know that the amount of traffic we're going to be able to generate for this is going to make up for our smaller margins, all those kind of things. So I would definitely say, don't feel bad about it. I was actually mentoring a company. They have like a small fashion startup brand, and they had taken the approach where they said ideologically that they weren't going to participate in Black Friday. And it was funny, Ben and I were actually both driving on the way to work, but in different cars. And so we were in a conference call with them, and it was like kind of quiet from both of them. And then we were like, let's talk more about that. But their whole thing is like, we're just going to not participate. And it's like, guess whose life that changes? Nobody's. Like, if you disappear for a couple days, no offense, but you're a small brand that no one knows anyway. People just forget. And they'll go on and they'll spend those dollars on something that maybe wouldn't have as beautiful as an impact if they chose to spend it with you. So as a brand, we've always taken the stance of like, we want to show up. And I will say that one of our dreams as we get to be a bigger and more profitable brand is doing some cooler things around Black Friday. We're not at a place where that makes sense, and so right now it's about how do we maximize the season. Danielle said it's a perfect time to get multiple items and share the love of this company. I love that.
It's a great
Danielle.
point.
It's like the gift that keeps on giving, because it's like, I would so much rather you buy something at a discount from us, love it, tell your friends about it, because then honestly, if you actually do that, you're gonna, with telling one person that's gonna come back and buy it, you're gonna make up that 20% margin that we sacrificed and gave to you. So in some ways, if you're thinking about it like that, in like a very collaborative, how do I get the companies I love into the black, that's an amazing way to, like, okay, the brand's giving you 20% off, they're giving you a gift, you're buying the product, getting something cheaper than you would have. Can you repay them by, like, going out and talking about that brand? And I love that. And that just makes me feel very warm and fuzzy about the whole cycle.
it's a completely different perspective on the same event, right?
Yes.
Which I think is really cool. And basically everything we do at Seiko, I feel like, is we're going to take something and we're just going to do it a little differently, a little bit, hopefully better, you know, and just kind of making it a positive experience for everyone involved. So we're not about boycotting as much as we are redirecting and taking something that has a reputation and elevating it to a place that's really positive for the world.
Totally. And I love that like level of partnership.
Yeah.
It really makes me think about, I think as consumers, one of the saddest things that's happened is like we see ourselves as like a total individual, and it's like I'm out for myself and I'm going to try to squeeze every penny and every dollar and get the best possible deal, and I don't care who gets hurt in the process. And thinking about like if I lived in a small town and I walked down the street and I bought a loaf of bread from the person that made that bread, and I knew that they put a lot of time and energy and care into it and made this delicious treat, even though I'm giving them my money, in some ways it still feels like a gift that they've put themselves into that product, they've given it to me. I think that the maker feels this sense of a gift of like, well, I gave you something for that money, but it's also a gift that you chose me and that you picked my bread. And I just like the gift economy, even though I'm a big believer in capitalism, if we can take capitalism and kind of infuse it with that spirit of gift giving. And so the idea of consumers doing that to us and for us is like so heartwarming. And then not to mention how that makes our team in Uganda, who actually is on the maker side, how that makes the women here in the U.S. that sell the product. Like, there's just so many opportunities
There's so many
for
levels
dignity
to every gift. Hence, I mean, if you've seen a hashtag floating around this season, we're talking about gifts that give. There's this idea that what that purchase, what that product gives, it shoots off into so many directions.
Yes, yes.
On that note, I do want to say one more thing before we move into...
scroll without making my finger look like a giant...
One more thing before we move into receiving gifts, ethically, consciously, and that is one more thing on purchasing or giving a gift. I would say when you are buying something that is well made, that is ethically made, however you want to say it, share the story with someone when you give it to them, because that is a gift in and of itself. And I think it's been so fun. Some of my friends who know more where I stand on this have begun actually asking me every time I give them something, like a bridal shower, birthday, like I'll give them the gift, and if I haven't already said something about it, they'll be like, so tell me the story about this.
I love that.
And I'm like, okay, also now I always need to know like
kind
where
of
my
like
stuff
good
comes
peer
from.
pressure.
Yeah, it is. I'm like very accountable to this, but I love it because I get to tell them like, oh my gosh, like this is who this product is empowering. This is how it was made to my knowledge, as much as I know about it. And that to them is a whole nother level of the gift, because then they have the story and they get to share it with people when they're wearing it, and they get to know where their product came from.
I love it. I love it. So I think have freedom, have fun. I think Black Friday is super fun.
Yeah.
Like I have a brand that I've been eyeing for a long time that my sweet coworkers gave me a gift card to for my birthday, and I'm like so excited to see what their Black Friday deal is going to be. It's not Seiko.
We do support other brands.
So yeah, I would say have fun.
Yeah.
Be thoughtful. There's a lot, and the amazing thing is there's so many. There's virtually nothing at this point, minus like, I don't know. I can't even think of a product that you could think to give someone that there isn't a more conscious decision. That's not true. You know what's really hard? Electronics.
I was about to say technology.
Technology is a whole nother ballpark.
Who's smarter than me, start a fair trade, ethically made something.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Okay. Genevieve says, I'm thinking about the fact that each gift you are buying can be the opportunity to build a connection to another place. I think, I love that. She said, I think for teens in particular, it provides me as the parent... Wow, to educate. Yes, I think. Yes,
I love that.
I love that
That's
thought.
really
That
cool
you're creating an experience for somebody.
Yeah.
Steph's mom is on. Hi, Tess.
Hi.
Cozy Hat, Starbucks, and friendship. Love the atmosphere.
So fun.
Okay, so let's talk about. Ellie, what are your thoughts on being on the receiving end? Like, have you ever been in a situation where someone gives you something and you're like, I never would have bought that for myself.
Yes.
I don't support that company.
Yes.
It goes against my ethics. And what do you do?
Yes.
How do you navigate that?
Okay, so you
Oh!
Are we back?
We're back.
Give us
We're
a little
back.
heart
Sorry.
if you can
Give us
see us.
Yeah, give us some love if we're back. So I
was a
had
little
just
paranoid.
asked Ellie what she does when she's on the receiving end of a
Yes.
gift that she wouldn't necessarily buy, and she was telling us that she writes them a thesis.
Yes, makes people
about
feel very guilty.
why they've failed
No,
you.
sarcasm. Okay, here's what you do. Someone gives you a gift, and you're like, ooh, I see this label. I know this was made poorly. You say thank you. That's it. That is your easy answer, how to behave in any situation in which you open a present. You express gratitude. And I think that, hopefully is freeing to you, because I, for a while, went back and forth about what do I do with this, and what does it mean, like, I didn't spend the money, but they spent the money, and my brain would, like, go into all these, like, economic realms of, like, what does this mean about me as a person? No, like, at the end of the day, we believe in people over products.
Always.
Right?
Always.
And that
yes.
should apply to your family scenarios just as much as it applies to your beliefs about where something was manufactured.
I totally
Yeah.
agree. I completely second that. And again, this is, I think, maybe reflective of where we sit on the spectrum of what we define as an ethical or conscious consumer. But I would rather be a person who says, when I am given the chance and the opportunity, I'm going to do the best that I can.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm not, I'm going to have gratitude and grace.
Yeah.
And to see the intention behind that person. Like, I don't believe anybody in my life has ever given me a gift out of the intention of, like,
Right.
I know some 14-year-old
Right.
in Bangladesh was treated
Yeah.
really crappy here, and I'm going to give that
No
to Liz
one
so she,
thinks
like,
that. Yeah. Yeah.
unknowingly supports that. So instead say, okay, in this circumstance, I'm going to look beyond the gift
Yep.
and the economic implications of it, and I'm going to look at the giver and
Yep.
the heart of that, and I'm going to receive that. And then I'm going to channel all the change that I'm going to make,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe this in a lot of different ways, is less about, it's so much more compelling, I think, to tell a great story and invite
Yeah.
people into that than tell people why their story sucks.
Absolutely.
And I think about this in ethical fashion in general. There are other people, and some are brands, a lot of it are kind of more advocacy organizations. I think in every social movement, there is a role for people to be against.
Yep.
And that's an important part of how society changes. There's also a role for the people who say, okay, we're going to be the creators of the next wave of something that's
Yeah.
better, and we're going to offer that to you. And Seiko, as a brand, very much so sits on the ladder of, like, I only have a limited amount of time and space.
Yeah.
I'm not going to beat you over the head telling you suck or you're a bad person
Yeah.
because you're not an ethical consumer. All I'm going to do is give you a better option that it feels compelling and whimsical and adventurous and exciting, and invite you to be a part of a story that's a little bit better than the story you're currently participating in.
And that is such a more compelling invitation into this wave of change than inviting someone via guilt and risking alienating your relationships.
Yeah, totally. Barb said she completely agrees. Being
Yay.
gracious is what the season is about. I love
thanks,
that.
Barb.
Okay, well, do you guys have any questions? Any things that feel really sticky for you guys as you're
Yeah.
navigating the holidays as an ethical consumer? We may or may not have an
Yeah.
opinion about it, but if you guys have any questions, we'd love to answer. We'd love to answer those.
Yeah.
Any other last thoughts from us before we get questions?
I'm not going to give you details, but I will say, if you don't know a Seiko Fellow, you're going to want to know a Seiko Fellow, because you might hear about some things happening later this week.
There will be a
Black
very
Friday
real
sales.
benefit to knowing and following a Seiko Fellow this week. So if you're excited about Seiko, if you're excited about our sales that we have coming up, which, by the way, if you've been following our brand, we're very, very, very intentional about discounting in sales. And we do it not super regularly, and we don't do really big discounts because we, throughout the entire year, try to keep our products, even though they're ethically made and beautiful, as price competitive as possible. And so it's not possible. If we ran our business like most big retailers run their businesses, we would drive
We would
ourselves
go
into the
bankrupt,
ground.
yeah.
But there are special times of the year that we've been banking on. So we have a couple of fellows as well on this call. So if you're curious, you can always send them a message and make sure that you follow them. So with that being said, unless you guys have any other questions or thoughts, we are going to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us. And I will say, be encouraged and inspired by the ability you have
Yeah.
in the next week 2 weeks, 3 weeks,
Yep.
to be a part of a really beautiful story. Whether that's with Seiko, whether that's with another brand that is conscious and it's supporting great work in the world. This is kind of your this is like the Super Bowl to be a conscious consumer, and this is where you get to show up.
You gotta flex your muscle a little bit.
And flex your muscle, yeah. And so it's really fun. And so I would say, have fun with that. Share, be loud about your purchases and who you're supporting. Because that's the other thing is that I always find in myself when I buy something I'm not super proud of, immediately I won't talk about it.
Right.
And that's like a whole piece of my joy that I kind of have to keep that to myself because I don't feel really good about it. And then when I feel great about it, it's like extra fun that I get to tell and share people.
Yeah.
So be conscious, have fun, be loud,
be excited,
and
gracious.
Gracious, yeah. And we're excited to see the deals and steals that you guys get while also making a positive impact in the world. So
thank you guys.
Peace out.
Love
Have fun.
you.
See ya.